Howdy, and welcome to another edition of A Fly on Heaven's Wall, day 16 of my 40-day prayer condition for President Trump. All great men who've risen to the presidency in America have just been ordinary people who rose to prominence in unordinary times. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, maybe Kennedy, Reagan, Obama, and now Trump. We can certainly look back at President Obama and see that he was destined for greater things than he ultimately ended up with. Sadly, President Obama chose to go a different path than to what he was called. I believe Obama was called to lead our country through the crisis of racism that grew out of slavery and Jim Crow. This was possible. Everything led up to that moment, and as the first black president in America, he had a unique opportunity to connect with all Americans because, after all, Obama was, or is, mixed. He's black and white. He's not just black. He's not just African. He's Caucasian and African. So he had a unique opportunity to connect with both whites and blacks. And of course, who elected him but white? They were the people who put him in office twice. But he failed in his calling because rather than seek reconciliation and resolution to the problem between blacks and whites, rather than using his influence to deal with the issues of the black community in America, particularly the big city black community that's riven with crime and drugs and violence, he chose instead to just throw gasoline on a smoldering pile of ash and blew it up into a big fire. So he was a guy that was destined for greatness, really, but he threw it away. And that's really why the country turned against him. Of course, the liberals, they were diehard, and they don't really care what their president does, what their elected leaders do, so long as they remain at least mouthing the shibboleths of the liberal progressive line. Because that's all they care about. Not the country, not the people in the country, but just their identity politics and their agendas. And this has been the case for most of American history. You know, you look back and see the Democrats didn't care about the country. They split it up in the Civil War. They were concerned for their states and their states' rights and their way of life. But the country had greater things in store for it. Obama did the same thing. And now there's Trump. And Trump has an opportunity to do what Obama did not do. You know, it's possible that we could look at the presidents, Obama, Trump, maybe someone after Trump as a Saul, David, and Solomon figures. Or even maybe Bush, Obama, Trump as Saul, David, Solomon figures. That's kind of hazy to me right now, but it's a thought. But Trump is just an ordinary guy who's risen to prominence through his business success. He has a certain character and personality, rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but it's got him where he is. And it allows him to accomplish things, especially seemingly impossible things. So from my point of view, he's a great pick for the country because the country needs healing from its racial divisions. And the principles that Trump outlined in his inaugural speech are the principles that are necessary to healing the racial division. And that is essentially legitimately and genuinely caring for black Americans. Not just giving them a handout, helping them up, playing the guilt card, trying to right this or that wrong, but genuinely caring that they experience the American dream throughout their community. And that poor whites and the forgotten whites of this country, the people who are being persecuted and oppressed and abused by liberal progressives today, to give them a voice and to also care about them, that they can also partake in the American dream. So maybe this wasn't all that well articulated, but the bottom line is Donald Trump is an ordinary man with extraordinary capability, called to public service in times of extraordinary need for our country. And on that basis, we need to pray for him. Please join me in prayer. Father, I give you thanks, Father, deep gratitude and appreciation for all the blessings you've poured out upon America, in the hopes that this country would use those blessings to bring reconciliation and artistic healing among all the people who have come to America, who represent literally every group and nation and culture on planet Earth. America truly is the melting pot of the world. No other nation has the diversity of the United States of America. And no other nation on earth has the concept of individual freedom so deeply etched into its national consciousness and in its founding documents. And though America has completely, well, not completely, but in many ways, deviated away from those founding documents, still that founding spirit is strong in a large portion of Americans. Father, I pray that Donald Trump will rise to the occasion, as have many presidents before him. That he will learn to be humble where he is not humble now. To check his hubris where his hubris gets the better of him now. To be a servant leader. Father, many of the greatest Christian values that make a good pastor or just a generally good Christian are attributes that Donald Trump not only possesses, but would benefit from building more strongly into his personality. So I pray, Father, that your spirit can always be upon Donald Trump. He can feel your presence. He can feel your reality and understand that no man is above God. No man is above moral principles. And that the president must work to the service of the nation and not to the service of his own party. That is the unique position of president, Father. Unlike Senate and House members who do work for their party and especially their constituents, the president's job is to work for all Americans because it's all 50 states who elect him, not just this or that party or this or that constituency. The whole nation partakes of the election. And win or lose, he represents all those voters. Just as a senator or representative represents all the voters of their district or their state, even though many of them might not have voted for him or her. But once you win, you represent everyone in your district, not just your voters. You don't abandon the people who did not vote for you, because they have every right to be represented in government. Father, bless this nation as it struggles to return to your way, Father. Individual freedom, absolute rights, and limited government, which together form the ability for the American people to create a righteous and just society. Because it will not come through liberal progressive ideals. It will not come through oppression or tyranny or political correctness or force and violence, but only through the free exercise of conscience. And that is where your servants, Father, come in. I pray that Christians and people of good faith in other religions can work to encourage people to be mindful of your attributes, Father, and your primary attribute, which is unconditional love for all. Thank you, Father. I pray in true love. Amen. Okay, thank you for joining me on day 16 here at A Fly on Heaven's Wall. God bless.